Welcome to Healing Starts with the Heart, the podcast where grief meets resilience. Join your host, grief specialist, Sharon Brubaker, as she guides you through this transformative journey using her own personal struggles through grief.
Hey friends, I am so excited. I'm actually truly honored. I'm by myself today, but I have to tell you guys this story. I decided to join a speech contest. And I feel like I have a really strong story that I want to get out there and really tell. And I met the most amazing man at this speech contest. And he approached me and we just started talking. And I kind of walked away. And I really feel that God just laid it on my heart to go back and talk to him and invite him to be a guest because there's just so many people that I think his story will reach and touch. Friends, allow me to introduce you to Jeremy Clarkin. He's a girl dad of 3. He's a retired Marine. He is a self-taught artist, and he has an unwavering passion for coaching veterans and helping them paint away their pain, which we're going to get into, and just being there and walking that broken heart journey with friends. It's just an amazing story. Welcome, Jeremy, to the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I greatly appreciate it. Like you said, it was such a serendipitous situation at the speak off. I never expected us to even like cross paths. But like I said, when I saw you talking, it really hit home. And you're just like so professional and so like amazing. I knew you were going through to the next round right off the rip.
Well, we both have stories to get out there. So we're not on their platform. We're on our own platform, which I think is even better.
Oh, yeah.
So, Jeremy, in the speak off, you shared an amazing story. So I would like you to share your story with our friends as much or as little as you like, and just give them an insight as to who you are.
So the story that I shared is it's the moment I decided to live. And it started with the moment I was going to die. I was in my garage, drinking my sorrows away. All the negative thoughts were just pouring in: hopelessness, depression, worthlessness. I was never going to get better. I was never going to be better, that my family would be better off without me. And I just kept drinking and drinking and drinking. And I decided that was going to be my day. And I took my pistol and I put it in my mouth. I racked it back, pulled the trigger. All I heard was click. It misfired. So I racked it back a second time. And at that moment, my daughter walks into the garage and she's screaming my name, calling me for my attention. I don't know what it was for, but whatever it was, I just remember her voice playing, and I put the pistol down and I immediately ran over and I picked her up and I held on to her so tightly and I squeezed. And I just like, I could still remember the shampoo that we used for her, that like for her bath earlier that day. And I just remember holding her and feeling her. And immediately my mind went to, wow, this girl would have been the first one to see me. I would have literally ruined her life. She would have not only lost her father, but been traumatized with the images of that forever. And the sad story is that this is common in my arena, right? Being a retired Marine, I have a lot of buddies that are no longer here, and their families, I see their families regularly, and I see what that done. And now I'm seeing it as like, wow, that could have been my family too.
Right. Wow. 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 What a beautiful story. A story that's going to change so many lives. And that's what really drew me to you. And friends, hear me out. I don't want to get into Jeremy's particular story. Where I really want to go with this, and this is what Jeremy and I talked about, is that there's so many clients that I work with after their hurt and broken loved one has been found. And that's what I'd like you to speak to today, Jeremy. So she would have come in and found you. May I ask how old she was?
At that time, she was, so this was 2016. So she was only like 4 or 5, about to be 5.
Little baby.
Mm-hmm.
So I have heard it said this, and tell me if this is true, that that decision to take our life is made at the last minute a lot of times. Is that true?
Um, the actual action, yes, but I'd say leading up to it, there was a lot of negativity and a lot of those evil thoughts that kept like protruding that my kid family would be better off without me. That kind of like led up to it, right? And led up to me drinking more and more, trying to suppress it. In reality, it was just making that voices louder and louder. And so, but like you said, like that last moment, it was just like, you know what, this is it. I'm done. I had enough. And it was just that was it right then and there.
So, so I have a lot of clients that that are dealing with the aftermath of their loved one taking their life by suicide, and the constant ringing in their brain is the why. And a lot of times we find that a lot of our clients, they will become the detective to try to put the pieces together as to the why, but they don't actually do their healing work. So I'll have, like, let's say a mom come to me, right? And all she wants to talk about is the why. And she just keeps talking it over. And we call it becoming the detective. And so they're not actually healing their own broken heart. They're so out there doing the why. Do you think they can really find the why? Will they ever really find the why based on your perspective?
No, I don't think they'll ever figure out the why, right? Because it's so complex. There's so many
Right.
different variables that played into it. I mean, there's a lot of things that contributed to it, but for me to take the actual action, it's like you said, it's a spur of the moment and there's no justification to it. At that point, they're kind of just trying to look for something to put the blame on, and so that way they can kind of not feel responsible or whatever that guilt.
Yeah. Yeah. The one of the other things that I've read is that a lot of times by the time we make our first suicide attempt, it's not our first time. Can you speak to that?
Yes, that was definitely not my first time. I tried to overdose on my pain medications while drinking. I've done a few other things where I was like speeding and was like jerked into the side of the road, like a lot of things that I was like just testing to kind of see if is this what I really want to do? Do I really want to, is it worth still fighting to live?
And the so one of the things I said, I Googled because I just wanted to have some conversation pieces was let's talk about suicide. Had anyone walked up to you and said, "Are you thinking of killing yourself?" Because that is one of the questions that people say to ask out loud. And I ask it quite often when I have clients that are struggling. Would that have made a difference for you?
No,
Would you have
honestly,
told the truth?
I would have told them, honestly. I would have been like, yeah, I'm not in the right space and I've thought about it. But it wouldn't have made a difference if someone asked me or didn't ask me because it wasn't going to change the thoughts that were rolling through my mind.
Yeah. For you, Jeremy, you think you needed a second layer of help? Is that what it is? You needed more targeted help?
Um, at first, I even reached out for help, right? So I went through the suicide hotline. This is when it was first like kind of like getting out there, and they let me down. They one time I called, they didn't answer. It just kept ringing, ringing, and ringing. And the second time, the guy basically told me that just stringing me along. He's like, "Oh, you're gonna be okay. You're gonna be okay." And I'm just like, "No, I'm not gonna be okay. You don't understand." And you could tell that he wasn't really like used to the situation, and it was kind of like being almost like he was being trained and he was just going off of a cue card, right? And I was just like, yeah, this is not helping me at all. And then being in the military, it's not like I can go to my chain of command and say, hey, I'm struggling with this, because once you do that, you get shunned out and then you lose your chance of being promoted and all that. So it was like you had to keep it all locked in.
Okay, friends, let's take a brief break right here. I want to share something with you. If you're grappling with the heavy weight of long term grief, you know, the kind that feels as like it's consuming every part of your life. And now that I say that, what grief doesn't feel like it's consuming every part of your life? I'm talking about the pain of losing someone you love that's affecting your zest for life, your energy, your relationships with your spouse, your parents, or your children. As a grief specialist, I want you to know that you're not alone on this healing journey. Grief can cast a long shadow, but there's a path for healing. There is a true path for healing. And I've designed something very special for you. I want you to take a look at you, the griever. My partner, Joy Renique of Celebrate Legacy, and I have curated a transformative 3-day retreat, especially for those who are suffering from grief after the loss of a loved one. Anyone trying to move towards healing. The best part is it is completely free. The virtual retreat is called Life After Loss, and we've assembled a remarkable team of experts who truly understand your pain, your heartache, and your longing for healing. They are also true grievers, and they've been on this journey before you. They're not going to only share from their own experience, but they're going to give you a safe place to grieve. And they will educate you about the grieving healing journey and give you actionable steps to move towards healing. I will also be speaking at this event. And the topic of my subject is, does grief have an end? Don't let grief continue to hold you back. Take the courageous step towards healing right now. Just click the button, the link that I have in the show notes, to get your free ticket to the retreat. Your journey to healing begins with a single click. I can't wait to meet you virtually at the retreat, where together we'll take these first steps toward a brighter future. You can also head over to grieflegacy.net/retreat or click the link below in this podcast description to save your free tickets. Your path to healing is just a click away, my friend. The weeks and days that led out of you walking out of the garage with your daughter, were your eyes open to everything that you'd have left behind, or did you still feel down?
I was down. So
Okay.
what I did is I went to the hospital, I think it was either that night or the next morning, and went inpatient immediately because I knew that if I didn't, I was gonna drink another bottle of Jack or Jameson, and then I was gonna just finish the deal. I knew I wasn't able to be responsible with myself at that point forward.
From that point on, from walking out of the garage that day, share with our friends like something that did help.
Honestly, holding my kids. That was the thing that helped me. I literally slept like with them in my arms because I didn't want to be away from them.
It was like a lifeline.
Mm-hmm.
It was like a lifeline. When you put the gun down, you made another decision, and that was the decision to live.
Yep.
And once you made that decision to live, you went on that journey then. What would you say? And I don't know that you can answer this, but I'm going to ask you anyway. What would you say to all the moms and wives out there that I'm working with now, that their loved one made the other decision? What advice could I give them? Do you think that would help them?
It's not your fault.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing, is it's not your fault. And a lot of the time there's nothing you could have done. We play that a lot in our head. It's like, what ifs or what could we have done? Just know that they loved you.
Yeah. Yeah. I have very close family members, and on the day the world was shut down, my cousin died by suicide. And weeks and months later, I remember having a conversation with his daughter, and she said, he struggled for so long. Like, she almost felt like he was okay now. At least he wasn't struggling anymore. Does that help to know that your loved one isn't struggling anymore with whatever they've got going on?
I feel like that is a big relief, to feel that way. It's kind of like a way to put your mindset, because how they were struggling. You see them at their worst. You see them barely holding on, and just how much pain they're in. So I could definitely see that being like a good way to look at it and approach it.
Do you talk openly with your children and your wife and your family now about suicide?
So my wife and my family, more recently, I'd say yes, we've talked about it. My daughters, I haven't really told them about the whole situation, like revamping it, but we definitely make mental health like a key
Yeah,
like focus in our household,
yeah,
and things that cause that and trigger it and stuff like that. Like that's very open in our household.
yeah. And that's going to be a big, huge difference for their lives and for their kids' lives. So that's one of the things that I talk about often here with grief. Can you imagine if we taught our children how to grieve from a very young age? Because most kids, they're either lose their favorite art project or their dog dies, right? It's their first experience with loss. And instead of us as parents teaching our kids, okay, this is grief, your heart is sad, we go out and buy them a new dog or we recreate the art project, right? I've even done that as a mother because I don't want my child to feel pain. But the truth is, pain is a part of what we're going to experience here on earth. And that just brought a memory back to me. That was what you said to me when you walked up to me. You said, I loved your talk. I think it was grief. A lot of what I was going through was grief. So I connected to you in that way. Delve in a little bit more about that when you heard me say that and you started realizing it was actually grief.
So a lot of it was survivor guilt I was dealing with, losing a few of my buddies and a lot of people that I served with, and just not properly grieving for them not
Yeah.
being with me. And it really died. Like I put it in a box and kept trying to put it on the shelf and put it
Yeah.
away. But what happened is that was festering and boiling over into all aspects of my life, not just my career, not just personal lives, like every aspect of my life. And I was just being consumed by it.
Yeah. Okay, that brings me to another question. What services are out there for you guys? And we're going to get into we got a part 2, you guys. It's going to be exciting about what Jeremy is doing. But what services are out there for the guys that are really struggling and is it enough?
So they've started to take it a lot more serious, and they have a lot more services now. There's a lot more outlets you can go to reach and talk about these things, like through the VA and outside the VA with vet centers and all these different things. There's a lot. You just have to kind of like plug it in. But the thing is, a lot of the times people aren't willing to go in and talk about these things because we're not even wanting to address it in ourselves. We just, like I said, we just put it in a box and kind of just put it away and we try to forget about it. In reality, it's never forgettable. And so for me personally, the biggest thing they tried to give me was medication, right? Like right out the door, they were like, take medication and you're going
Yeah.
to be okay. And that was not it. That did not work for me at all.
Yeah. That is one of the things that I hear so often. I'm so glad you said that. So hear me out. Let me set up the scenario. My mom passes away. I'm absolutely heartbroken. So my heart is broken. I go to my doctor because that's where we think we should go. And he writes a prescription for a pill. And yeah, he's taking care of my brain, but what's going to happen with my heart? My heart is still broken. And so many clients are getting a prescription when we know for a fact most people are just dying to talk and tell their story. They really just want to hear their story. So if I were to have come up to you and said, hey, Jeremy, notice you're not doing really well, you're struggling. And I would say, I want to ask you a personal question. Are you thinking about killing yourself? And then you answered the question honestly and said, yeah, I have thought about it. What's the next thing to ask? Do you think would have been the next thing to ask?
That's a difficult question. I guess I'd want you to kind of ask something along the lines of, is there anything that we can help you with?
Right, right.
Um, to lead you in a different path, or um, because a lot of times I didn't even want to talk about this stuff, right? At that time when I was going through it, I didn't
Yeah,
even want to I didn't want to burden anybody with the things that were burdening me.
yeah,
So I wouldn't be able to tell you details at that time. I
yeah,
would probably just shut you off and be like, because especially it depends on the relationship too, right? If
Yeah.
how close you are, if I didn't know you or anything. But I guess just to see that you were caring and you wanted to find a way with me forward.
Yeah. I'm so glad you asked that, because that puts me there. So, friends, I want to just say this. If you ask the question and the person is resistant, don't be offended by that. The second thing is, if they answer the question yes, that they've been thinking about it, don't freak out. It doesn't have anything to do with you. It has to do with them. Just hold their space. Holding someone's space means you're loving them and you're listening to them. And they can say the most vulgar, ugly thing, and you're just going to be okay. The other thing is, go back and ask again. If he resists today, ask tomorrow and ask the next day and keep showing up. Would that have made a difference for you, do you think?
Absolutely, because I
Yeah.
would have felt like someone cared.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, that was the whole thing too, is like I felt like I was the only one. No one cared about how I was feeling or what I was dealing with.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So to everyone that has been left behind, do you have anything you'd like to say to them that's to help them through their struggle? A lot of them on their healing journeys.
The biggest thing is, like I said earlier, it's not your fault. In some cases, there's nothing you could have done in all honesty. Just like the big thing is to know that they loved you and they felt that decision was the best thing that they could have done for you at that
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
And the best thing you can do is live for them.
Yeah. Wow, that's awesome. I'm going to end it right there. Hey, friends, this is going to be a two-part show. Jeremy did some amazing things, and I want to share his healing journey in our next part. So please join us on the other side of this show. Thank you, friends. Bye.